Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. And I also just want to recognize and appreciate that in our conversation setting up this hearing, that we set up a bipartisan panel. So do appreciate that because, again, market access, helping our companies be successful around the world is not a Democratic or Republican agenda item. It's something that I think we all care about. I appreciate the witnesses. Obviously I've gotten to know Wendy Cutler and Matt Goodman over the years, and I've had the pleasure of working with you, and certainly look forward to hearing from the Republican witnesses. I've said this a lot. Had I had a magic wand, we'd go back to 2014, and we would have had TPP in place, and we would have had a framework for the movement of goods and services. We're not there yet, so we are where we are. I do think it's incredibly important for us as we go through a State Department authorization process. This is not exactly how I would have gone about reorganizing the State Department. I would have done it in a slightly different way than President Trump has chosen to do it, but we find ourselves with an opportunity to think about what a 21st century State Department would look like, what 21st century tools of economic engagement, economic development, of trade, of tariffs would look like, and where that's best housed. I know in our analysis, as we've talked to others, I do think it is incredibly important to have economics as part of the State Department, to have representatives around the world within our embassies out there promoting U.S. goods, products, working with our companies to help them navigate foreign markets and so forth. I also think it's very important, as we watch these tariff conversations unfold, that we take it as an opportunity perhaps to remove tariff barriers. Again, this isn't exactly how I would have gone about doing it. I certainly would not have targeted countries like Australia, where we actually have a trade surplus, close allies like Japan and Korea, but I am happy that the President is prioritizing some of the Indo-Pacific nations as first places to enter into negotiations. And having just returned from Korea, having some real interesting conversations, I'm happy that the U.S. Trade Representative is in Korea right now, engaging in some of those, have had conversations with the Japanese and others. Also, I think there's a unique opportunity with the ASEAN nations. We had dinner a few weeks ago with the ASEAN ambassadors, and they're looking for guidance here in terms of how to approach this. But there's a very real recognition from the Southeast Asian nations that they don't want the United States to leave these markets. So I do think there's an opportunity there. Lastly, I think some of the important things that were accomplished under the Biden administration were programs like the Mineral Security Partnership. These are important programs in the sense that as we look for redundant supply chains, so we're not solely dependent on a single source, in this case, Beijing and the PRC, it is an opportunity for us to work with like-valued allies like Japan, Korea, Australia, to build redundant supply chains for these rare earth elements and critical minerals. I think you need State Department diplomacy to help negotiate a lot of these deals and so forth. So, I think we should be very careful in dismantling, some of this expertise. And lastly, I would say, while IPEF was not exactly how I would approach trade, I think digital trade is incredibly important to what we do economically. I think, getting a digital trade, digital services deal done that doesn't disadvantage U.S. companies, U.S. technology companies where we're dominant is incredibly important. I think, again, in these trade tariff negotiations and conversations, I think there's strong bipartisan support for us to get a context and some digital trade, digital services trade framework done. So again, I look forward to hearing from the witnesses and from your expertise. Thank you, and I'll yield back.
Thank you, Ranking Member. The